Everyone expected Starship Flight 14 to attempt the first ship catch in history. Then a government filing showed up, and buried inside is one sentence that changes the entire mission. Bigger than anything SpaceX has announced out loud, and it comes with a solid date. Meanwhile, a strange piece of hardware just rolled through the Port of Brownsville towards Starbase. Almost nobody noticed it. It might be telling us the truth about SpaceX's new Starship launch pad. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. Starship updates. Let's start with the banger, Flight 14, because SpaceX's own paperwork just shifted what we thought this mission looks like. SpaceX has filed its communications application with the FCC for Flight 14, the standard requests for radio frequencies to talk to the vehicle. We pulled the booster application ourselves, and two things stand out. First, the operation start date, straight from SpaceX, August 28th. Second, the booster's listed area of operation is the orbital pad at Boca Chica, the pad. No Gulf landing zone anywhere in the document. And reporting on the Flight 14 filings goes a step further, quoting a sentence from the application text directly, quote, "The first stage booster will return to the launch site." End quote. Wait, what? Return to the launch site, not splash down in the Gulf. There is only one way Super Heavy comes back to the launch site, and that is into the arms of the tower. Remember what we reported 2 weeks ago? The expectation was that SpaceX would send Booster 21 to a careful ocean splashdown while the tower focused on the ship catch, keeping the risk stack manageable. One historic first at a time. This filing points the other way. Flight 14 could attempt to catch both stages. The booster first, and then, after the ship completes its orbits, it might get caught as well. And that would be a live test of the exact choreography Musk described on the earnings call as the end goal. Catch the booster, swing it aside, and catch the ship later. The more orbits the ship flies, the more time there is for the crew to clear the pad and roll the booster away. A filing sentence is not a mission plan, and plans change right up to the launch day. But this is SpaceX telling a federal agency in writing where its booster is going. We'll treat it with the weight it deserves. So when is Flight 14? Nothing official yet, but two independent paths now point at the same date. Neither stage has done its static fire yet, and some people are getting nervous. Here's why I'm not. Ship 40 rolled out for its static fire 19 days after its last engine went into Megabait 2. Ship 41's last engine went in on July 27th. Count 19 days forward, and Ship 41's rollout lands right about now, this weekend. The booster runs a longer clock. Booster 20 went to its static fire 29 days after returning from cryo testing. Booster 21 came back from cryo on July 22nd. Same interval puts its static fire around August 21st. And on Flight 13, the first launch attempt came 1 week after the booster static fire. That lands Flight 14 on roughly August 28th. Now for the second path. The FAA's planning documents currently list August 28th for Flight 14. And as we just saw, SpaceX's own FCC application names August 28th as its operational start date. That is two regulatory documents and the hardware math all landing on the same day. Completely independent methods. Pattern matching on one side, paperwork on the other. Same date. And remember, the comparison timelines for Booster 20 and Ship 40 included all the time SpaceX needed to fix the Flight 12 problems, so if anything, Booster 21 should run faster, not slower. Late August is genuinely in play. If we see no rollouts within 2 weeks, then we talk about September. Sometimes it is hard to know the outcome before you start. For years, engineers have been chasing slow air leaks on the ISS. They find a crack, they seal it, it holds for a while, then it comes back. Your data online behaves the same way, and my partner of 5 years and sponsor of this video, Incogni, will help you stay safe online. 5 years. Data brokers hold your name, address, phone number, and your relatives' details, and they sell it on. Incogni files removal requests for you with more than 400 brokers and people search sites, then keeps resweeping them on a rolling cycle because deleted records reappear. You watch the whole thing on a dashboard. On the unlimited plan, you can also point their team at thousands of sites that aren't even brokers at all, with Incogni's custom removal features. It works across the US, UK, EU, and Canada. Incogni is the first service of its kind to have those claims independently verified by Deloitte, and every plan carries a 30-day money-back guarantee. Take your data back with Incogni. Use my code Felix to get 60% off an annual plan, incogni.com/Felix. Try it out today and help Y in return. Now to the hardware story of the week. Here is our latest mystery development. On Tuesday, a very particular piece of equipment rolled from the Port of Brownsville towards Starbase. A Starship launch mount servicing platform. And we've built an animation to show you exactly how this thing works. Some history first. In the Pad 1 Milkstool days, SpaceX serviced the mount from below. A raisable service platform sat on the flat deluge plate between the legs and lifted technicians up into the mount. So far, so good. But the new pad design killed that approach because under the new orbital launch mount sits a wedge-shaped flame diverter. There is no flat floor to stand a platform on anymore. This new platform comes in from above instead. A crane lowers it into the circular opening of the launch mount, where it rests on the hold-down clamp arms themselves and unfolds into stairs, walkways, and access points, one segment per clamp arm. Clever. Purpose-built, clearly not cheap. And that is exactly what makes me think. What does this imply? It takes time to lift into place and time to remove. Do you design this for a pad that needs no attention between flights? Or do you design it for a pad that needs regular hands-on servicing? So the question is, was this planned from the beginning or is it a reaction? Remember what we covered last episode. After just 2 launches, SpaceX added burn plates inside the Pad 2 flame trench because the exhaust chewed up the trench more than expected. That was an afterthought. A fix. Expected. They learn with each flight. If this platform is the same category, a response to the mount needing more care than designed, then a pattern forms. And that pattern would tell us Pad 2, for all its brilliance, is a stepping stone. Not the holy grail of rapid reusability just yet. The bridge between the quick and scrappy first pad and a truly zero-maintenance design still to come. Or it was always in the plan and simply showed up late. We can't know yet. We'll be watching how often that platform goes in and out. That will tell us more over time. Now here's the next clue hunt. This connects directly to Ship 40's epic water landing. Amy and Jordan caught Ship 42, the Flight 15 vehicle, getting heat shield tiles replaced this week. And the pattern is strange. A stripe-like patch, seemingly random. But look closer at the photos. There are markings visible on the tiles, and they seem to be concentrated on the gaps between them. Not on attachment pins, not on damaged tiles. The boundaries. Now, remember the white streaks on Ship 40's shield after re-entry? Those came from the mineral felt in the tile boundaries, the crunch wrap, as SpaceX calls it internally. Here's how SpaceX applies it today.
Those are the same ablative material and still heat getting behind them. Now you'll notice up here in the nose, there's a little darkened region. What we found out there was we put a new material in underneath the SDI pop. We call it crunch wrap. It's like wrapping paper that goes around each tile. And then when these tiles are mechanically held in place, they're snapped in by a robot. And when we push the tile in, this little wrapping paper essentially sits around the sides of each one of the tiles, and then we cut it off on the surface.
Every tile gets its own patch of felt underneath, slightly larger than the tile itself. When the neighboring tile goes on, the overhanging felt gets bent upward and squeezed into the gap between them. So here's my idea. My speculation, but hear me out. Where Ship 42's markings sit, the visible felt in the gaps looks thinner. Less far up between the tiles. If that observation holds, SpaceX may already be feeding Ship 40's re-entry data back into the shield. The first flown V3 heat shield came home 3 weeks ago, and the Flight 15 ship might already be wearing the lessons. And here is the falsifiable part the way it should be. If SpaceX changes how the crunch wrap gets applied on future ships, we were right and the boundaries were the issue. If the method stays identical, this was routine replacement and nothing more. Either way, we'll know within a few ships. That is the beauty of watching this program up close. Yay! You've reached the middle of the video. You made it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching and liking the video. If you're among the 40% who haven't subscribed yet, and there was at least one video you learned something new from, it would mean the world to me if you did. It is free and it genuinely helps more people find my channel. Want to make my world even easier? There is only one place you'd rather be. The Y Members Club on Patreon and right here on YouTube. Click the card or the join button right under the video. You are the reason we keep doing this. Thank you so much. You rock. So what's the conclusion to all this? A federal filing says the Flight 14 booster comes home, which could make the next flight a double catch attempt, which would be nuts. Two independent timelines point at August 28th for a rather reliable launch date. And the Flight 15 ship may already be wearing Ship 40's re-entry lessons on its skin. The conclusion is rather simple, but epic at the same time. The next 2 weeks decide whether August delivers the biggest flight in this program's history. See you at the rollout. Aerial images are essential for my reporting. If you're down at Starbase, make sure to pay our official partner, SPI Helicopters, a visit and book a flight. The same views our photographers get. It is unforgettable and worth every penny. Click the card or the link in the description. Help Y in return. Check it out today. On we go with NASA's part of the Starship project, or better, with the result of it. NASA has given us a new update on the moon base program, and there is a lot to unpack here. 4 landers, 4 companies, all of them in the final stretch of testing, all at the same time. Yes! This latest update is way more than just a presentation of far-out plans for a lunar future. We're talking real hardware almost ready for its big day. Sitting in vacuum chambers, getting shaken, frozen, and hot-fired right now. NASA's plan for a permanent human presence on the moon relies on robotic hardware that's supposed to start building the outpost at the lunar South Pole. Robotic helpers lay the groundwork before any astronaut puts boots on the moon. Makes sense. We'll have a look at what's built, what's left to do, and when it is time to fly. Company by company, and then I have a very surprising twist for you in the end. First up, there is Blue Origin working on the Blue Moon Mark 1 lander Endurance. One of the more prominent landers. Landers from the same family are planned for crewed landings later in the Artemis program. Imagine the Mark 1 as a moving truck for the moon. One of the first of a whole new generation of landers. Built to haul big and heavy payloads with a meaningful cargo capacity instead of suitcase-sized delivery that used to be the norm. And Endurance, by now, is very deep into testing. It's already finished its big environmental campaign. That includes a thermal vacuum run at Johnson Space Center in Houston. In this test, you seal the spacecraft in a giant chamber, suck all the air out, and swing the temperature to lunar extremes to prove it won't quit on you. And as far as we know, it held up just fine. The structure, the avionics, the propulsion, they're all assembled. The communication via NASA's relay satellites and the Deep Space Network works. So for Endurance, the next big step is testing cryogenic propellant loading. Soon after that, it is ready for integration into a rocket fairing. On the first mission, the lander has to prove that it can perform precision landing. A clean touchdown right on target is what they need. For this, it has to rely on its autonomous systems. The software that flies the descent without the need for an operator's hand on a joystick. So don't underestimate Blue Moon Mark 1. It is not just a stepping stone towards the even larger human-rated landers. If Endurance works, NASA suddenly has a heavy haul vehicle ready to deliver around 3 tons of cargo with each flight. But while this all sounds dandy, there is a caveat. Blue Moon has to wait for its launch vehicle, New Glenn, to return to service. A launch in 2026 is nowhere close to being guaranteed. There is a big chance Endurance's inaugural mission slips to early 2027. And while Blue Origin is rebuilding the pad, they've also identified the cause of the explosion, a stuck oxygen valve on one of the BE-4 engines. Bummer. Next up is Firefly and its Blue Ghost lander. You might remember this lander's debut last year. It pulled off a clean lunar touchdown. Now the company is ready for the sequel, and Blue Ghost Mission 2 is a much bigger kind of animal. This time, the lander rides stacked on top of an orbital spacecraft called Elytra. Together they stand about 6.7 meters tall. That is the height of a 2-story building. A big change from Mission 1, nearly 3 times the height of the first Blue Ghost. Mission 2 targets the far side of the moon and aims to become the first American landing there. So far, only China has achieved a soft landing there. What makes a landing there so difficult is that the far side permanently faces away from the Earth. The moon is tidally locked. That means you can't talk to a spacecraft down there directly. You have to rely on something relaying that signal back around the moon. But that kind of isolation is the whole price. The moon's mass shields it from all the noisy TV, radio, and radar chatter here on Earth. It is essentially radio quiet. That makes it a very good spot to listen for faint whispers from the cosmic dark ages, the stretch of early universe history right before the first star is fully ignited. Blue Ghost carries 3 NASA payloads, and with those gets to not only study these ancient signals, but also get up close with the region's geology. With one successful landing under the belt, Firefly had a good base to build from. It is reusing subsystems and the autonomous landing software from Mission 1, which is the whole point of the commercial model. Don't reinvent the lander every flight, just iterate. That is faster, cheaper, and less risky. Let's move on to Trinity, the third Nova C lander by Intuitive Machines, getting ready for a mission called IM-3. A couple of things make this one interesting. First, it's bringing a friend along for the mission. Altus 1 is the company's first lunar data relay satellite. Think of it like a cell tower that is parked in an orbit around the moon. It serves as a dedicated relay so the surface hardware can stay connected without needing a direct link to Earth. Not that glamorous, true, but this is the kind of infrastructure a permanent base can't function without. Secondly, the chosen destination, a spot called Reiner Gamma. One of the mysterious lunar swirls. These bright, curling, almost tattoo-like markings on the lunar surface. Scientists are intrigued by these still not fully understood areas that line up with pockets of local magnetism. IM-3 is set to become the first mission to ever land in this zone and do science on location. And it carries 5 NASA instruments plus a stack of commercial payloads to ferry those down to the surface. This is a true case of we don't know what we'll find, and I love those. The moon still is a place that holds a lot of secrets for us to uncover in time. On the hardware side, Trinity is well underway. The top deck is aligned and the wiring is being tested. The lander has also just cleared long-range thermal vacuum testing at Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama. The next step is bolting on the engine and hot-firing it. So, I promised you 4 landers, and the final one is called Griffin 1. That is a name we heard before. It used to be Astrobotic's big lander. But now, things have changed. Astrobotic recently got sold to Voyager Technologies. The lander is still being developed by the same crew in Pittsburgh, though. Same team, same hardware, new letterhead. In NASA's Moonbase plan, Griffin 1 is the lander that is about improving mobility. It carries Astrolab's Flip rover loaded with 5 NASA instruments. What makes this rover special is that it is not a small machine. With a weight of around 500 kilograms, it is ready to move considerable distances carrying a meaningful payload. It is also a testbed for later, even bigger rovers that will support astronauts in the future. And a focus is on the vehicle's wheels. These are full-sized and full-featured test articles for the bigger rovers that are planned to soon provide the moon base with the required mobility. That is why they're so big. The design is intended for a larger rover later on. Right now, Griffin 1 is at JPL in Southern California, getting shaken and stressed in the environmental test lab. It recently passed mass property testing, pinning down its exact weight and balance so that the flight computer has all the information needed to handle the craft on the way down. Testing at JPL should be completed in a few weeks. Griffin 1 will then head back to Pittsburgh for final assembly before being shipped to the Cape. The launch on a Falcon Heavy rocket is planned for November 2026. So much about the landers. Now the crazy twist I promised you. The most surprising thing in NASA's update wasn't even about a lander at all. It was more about a ghost of the past. Remember Gateway? That little space station was going to be parked in lunar orbit as a waypoint for Artemis missions. But when plans changed from an orbit-first plan to a direct-to-surface plan, the station was dropped from NASA's plan. Gone. Gateway effectively got shelved. But hardware had already been built. The station's centerpiece, a habitation module called Halo, had suddenly become a very expensive orphan. Even before Gateway was cancelled, Halo had run into trouble. Cost overruns were one problem, another was corrosion. Both led to NASA issuing a stop work order earlier this year. Instead of scrapping all that work, NASA and Northrop Grumman are harvesting Halo's guts. The power and avionics hardware are reused. They will be repurposed into 3 lunar surface tech demos. They are actually dropping the station, not just out of the plans, but onto the lunar surface. Their job is to help solve one of the biggest challenges for any permanent moon base, surviving the harsh lunar night. On the moon, a night lasts about 14 Earth days. That's 2 full weeks with no sun. The temperature can swing brutally, all the way from being colder than liquid nitrogen to the scorching heat of a desert afternoon. Solar-powered gear simply dies out here unless you can reliably control and deliver heat and power. The 3 demos are built to test systems that allow a craft to survive this brutally tough night. And they are also testing a shared power infrastructure designed to let a future base easily plug in. And NASA says they'll fly these demos in Phase 1, which runs from now through 2029. So that's the update. A lot of lunar hardware is already on the starting block. Spaceflight is just getting more and more exciting. And that's it for today. Smash that like button. Subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. Our all-time favorite Raptor engine design and countless others are there for you to explore. Click the card or the US or worldwide link in the description. History is being written in real time. If you want to catch the other historic stories from recent weeks, click the video on screen and continue the journey now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.